Yeah, get ready for the best stream ever, folks, while I fiddle with some cameras. This was pretty impromptu. Give me a minute here. I'm dealing with some webcams. I appreciate your patience. My name is Chris. This is going to be a live stream of drawing. And my goal, I think, let's see, will that clip on there? Well, that looks okay. Let's turn off this, I think. Let me see where we got. What we got. We'll adjust that this way. I don't have my normal good cameras right now. Just getting back from Japan. And I thought I'd sort of participate. Boy, I'm having the hardest time setting these up. Give me a sec here. What if I turn on this light? Maybe I'll ditch the... Nah. I'll turn on this one. Okay. I've got a sketch here that I'm going to be working on inking as soon as I can align my camera. I'm just having a lot of trouble, obviously, so bear with me. It's going to take a few minutes to get this set up properly. But I figured this was better than just waiting and wondering if, like, Chris is in a different time zone or something like that. I've got an idea. Let's pop this out. I'll get back to that camera in a second, the one that's on me. Hey, everybody. Hello. We did it. Everybody at home, clap your hands to help the stream. There you go. We have summoned Chris from the depths of Japan. I'm back from Japan. Hello, everyone in chat. I see many familiar names. No worries. Thank you for your patience. This should only take a minute. I'm in my normal time zone. I'm on the West Coast right now. I'm on the West Coast. I'm back as of today from Japan. And I'm fiddling with webcams. You know, I've got one of them professional like live streams that every artist out there loves to do. Except I ain't no professional. That's a good view, right? You can hear me and you can barely comprehend what I'm displaying. Oh yeah, I got it going on now. Well, let's see what happens if I can clip this in. Maybe like that, and then move this over to under here. Okay, that's upside down is all. So, flip it like this. I flipped it like this. I flipped it like that. I flipped it with a wiffle ball bat. So, I'm on the run. The cops got my gun. And right about now, it's time to have some fun. The Chris Ad Rock, that is my name. And I know a fly spot where they got the champagne. Whoop. And I don't have my glasses on because when I draw... I like to, not like to, they're for distance, and it's no longer comfortable to wear my glasses when I draw. It's kind of annoying. I'll put it up here. Kind of close, I know. Can look at you guys every once in a while. Does that work? Is that working? I literally just did this sketch about 20 minutes ago after I set up the live stream. So I've still got to figure out a bunch of stuff in this. But this is, if you haven't read the manga Berserk, this is Nosferatu Zod. Yes, okay, good. Somebody recognizes it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, exactly. It's a found footage stream. So let's just start with some outlines, and then I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one because there's a lot of fur to draw. I'm going to draw some pretty faint lines on the underside. I'm imagining that he's underlit by like some fire or something. I don't know if I'm going to have time to add all of that tonight, but I just thought it would be fun to draw tonight, tomorrow, back to work, like my day job. I'm looking forward to it, though. you know, I've got a lot of, it'll be work, but it'll be nice to see my coworkers. And I brought back a lot of stuff for them from Japan, both candy and some cars. Kayfabe-tober, Jacktober, yeah. Ever since that Inktober guy had a lot of bad press, everybody was like, wait, it doesn't have to be called Inktober. We can just go with the premise of drawing or inking and come up with our own themes. And I like that. I've seen like Turtletober and all sorts of amazing things. A lot of creativity. And this way, whoever that guy is that came up with the name Inktober doesn't get to try to say, hey, you can't use that name without my permission, and I own anything you draw. Did I stock up on deleter zip screens? I didn't really get any for myself. Maybe I should have. I got one for Daniel Warren Johnson. He asked me to find him a camo pattern. I think I succeeded with a modern camo pattern. So in just a few days, I actually leave again on a trip, this time to New York City for New York Comic-Con. Just Saturday for me. Just Saturday for me. But thanks for asking. Good question. Thanks for the stream. Hey, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. Let's see. Sometimes the longer I'm away from work, the harder it is to go back. There's some truth to that. There is some real truth to that. I'm like wondering how much of a learning curve I'm going to have when I jump back into everything. But I think it should go fine. And yeah, there's a part of me that's definitely looking forward to that. And then Monday night, I will have my regular live stream on this channel with the news of the week and stuff. I'm working on potentially a very special guest that might drop in as long as everybody's schedules line up, which is something I've always sort of wanted to do on Pros and Cons, is just sort of start the first 10 minutes with a guest and then get into like the news and then, you know, review some comics or draw something like that. I want to sort of make it almost a comic book variety show, if you will. Little bit of everything. But I had a great trip. Why don't I talk a little bit about that? One of the more interesting things I did was renting a vehicle. I rented a car, one that we don't really seem to sell here in America. It's a Toyota Rumi, if you want to look that up. It has a something like a 1.6 liter engine, 3 cylinders, pretty small. Well, pretty small engine. It is turbocharged. Size-wise, it's kind of like, say, something like a Kia Soul, if you've seen those. And yeah, the first 10 minutes of driving something like that are like going back to learning how to drive for the first time, because they drive on the left side of the road. The steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the car. But then things like the turn signal and stuff are on the opposite side than what you'd expect. And the gear is on the other side. A sketch show. Guess I can't read Berserk. You should read it. It's great. Yes, a special guest if I'm lucky. So it was great. I am back from Japan. I am back. It's funny that you say that. It's not necessarily a musical guest, but there may be a time where I have him on and he plays some music. We'll see. That's an idea I've got. Japan was great. This character is Nosferatu Zodd. Nosferatu Zod. Do I like Hellraiser? I like the first one. I'm not a huge fan of the rest of the sequels. I appreciate what they are trying to do, but most of them don't work very well for me. If you haven't read Berserk, how do I describe it? It's a fantasy, warriors and stuff. No computers or cars or anything like that. And then there are essentially demons. And if you pledge your soul to them, you can become what's called an apostle. And that's what Nosferatu Zod is. He's an apostle, not like one of the actual demons, but he's incredibly powerful. And they're just there to sort of corrupt humanity. And this one guy, Guts, it's his name because, well, it's actually super dark, so I won't even get into it. I'll let you discover it if you haven't read the manga yet. But it's not what you think. I'll say that if you haven't read it. He has a very personal vendetta against these demons. And he carries around an impossibly large sword, hacking them to pieces when he can. But he definitely is in over his head a lot of the time, as powerful as he is. It's really good. It's really good. Just like the first Halloween. The first one's the good one. Oh, yeah. Most horror franchises, I would say, like the first one is something special. Then it kind of can be hit and miss is all I'll say. There are some exceptions. I would say that the first Nightmare on Elm Street is the best one. A couple of the others are pretty watchable. For Friday the 13th, I'd argue that either part 4 or part 6 is the best, though. But that's not necessarily hitting the same heights as some of the other things. Wow, thank you, Michael DeFonte. Chris, the Sean Chen is in the chat. Sean has been dropping in the last couple of episodes. It's always nice to have a professional in the audience. Sometimes they can give us some insight on something I'm talking about, and it's really interesting for all of us. So appreciate having you here, Sean. Appreciate everybody being here, though, just to be clear. Is NYCC for business or pleasure? Pretty much pleasure. I've only skipped 1 year during the pandemic. The first year they came back, I had tickets, and I just didn't quite feel comfortable going to a huge crowd like that yet. So at the last minute, I sort of backed out of attending. But I like going to New York, of course, to see the spectacle of New York Comic Con, but also, of course, to see a bunch of people that I know in comics, both, professionals and fans like myself. And my best friend from college lives in New York City. So, and he also likes comics. It's just a great excuse to get to catch up at least once a year. And we go to the Comic-Con, and his fiance and his daughter are both going to be going to. His daughter's been going to every single one since she was born, just a little baby. So Summer loves it. Summer has gotten really into a lot of anime and manga. So pretty sure Demon Slayer is her favorite. But anyway, mostly pleasure. I guess you could argue professional in the sense that I am trying to network for maybe getting some interviews, things like that for the future. That would be nice. Let's see. I reread the Busick and Sean Chen Iron Man run last week. Sure, that's a classic. Wild that he showed up here. You never know who's going to show up. Maybe Stan Lee will drop by. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for the support. Let's see. I missed the last chat as it was on a different day. Yes, I did have to do that because of my scheduled traveling and stuff. My run was broken. Well, I'm glad to have you here, Joe. Sorry about having to, while I was in Japan, I had to do one of them a day early and one of them a day late. I still wanted to sort of do them because they're very fun for me to do the live streams. I enjoy riffing on the news and chatting with all of you. But yeah, it was not possible to sort of stick to my normal schedule. That's for sure. Thanks to a bunch of you who still tuned in, even archived and stuff. So that was kind of cool to see that people were still potentially interested. A little less viewers than normal because it's on a different schedule, and I probably don't have the same, level of setup in terms of like professionalism. I mean, even this is a little bit obviously sort of slammed together with webcams. I don't have my normal nice high-end cameras set up yet because I was using them in Japan and I haven't had time to do that. A Stanley Seance episode? Yeah, we'll get there. Love Chris's Stanley. Face front, true believers. This is your pal, Stan. That just comes from when I grew up. Stanley hosted a pair of animated shows, The Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And so it was just a really familiar voice and cadence. I don't think I think all I have is the cadence. When you really look at it, it's I sort of exaggerate a lisp that isn't really technically there, but it sort of helps match the cadence of how Stan talked. And you combine that with like a few of his many catchphrases, and it sounds vaguely Stanley-esque. Just enough. Just enough. Has anybody else been participating on any level in an Inktober type of project? Just trying to draw daily. When I started Comic Tropes for the first 3 years, I want to say, I did do a daily live stream drawing something for Inktober. And the first 2 years, it kind of helped my channel grow. I was definitely small, light on subscribers, so it was additional content. That's really important when you're new. And then it got to a point in year 3 where it proved very detrimental to my channel, because all of a sudden now the YouTube algorithm says, okay, your weekly edited episodes get X number of views generally, but you're stop pushing your content. And that actually took me a while to figure out why my views started going down. It was because of the live streams. So this channel, it's my second channel. It's for fun. So there we go. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. Only true troopers remember. No. Everybody's a true trooper whenever they get here. I mean, I've got viewers that can be very young. So I would never expect them to have discovered my channel. I'm grateful whenever and however you find it. Means a lot to me. So I know you were just joking around, but yeah, I don't say, hey, just because you were here early, you're better. That's not a thing. That's not for me anyway. Not for me. Going to do a little hatching here to hopefully imply more of a fur texture than pure muscle. We'll see if that comes through when I'm done. Sort of experimenting. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up on a draw challenge right now. Missed a few days due to work. Hey, if work gets in the way, I understand that. Just doodling. Doodling. I've been around so long, I remember Chris being drunk on camera. Some of that was acting. And eventually I toned it down because enough people were complaining that they thought that I was, I don't know, just giving a poor example. I was like, I don't think I'm giving a poor example. I don't think I was ever trying to be anybody's role model. At the same time, what I thought was funny once or twice, I do think gets stale fast. So that's also part of why, I don't always do a cold open or something like that. I don't always have a gag or anything. It's because if it's super expected, it's not quite as funny. It's not quite as funny. I can't draw. I'm creatively and artistically bankrupt. I'm sure that's not true. I remember Drunk Kiss and all the other unhealthy stuff. Yeah. No, I definitely ate some gross foods and spicy foods and such. That was a lot of fun in its own way to challenge myself like that. I still remember being really grossed out personally by I think it was the episode I must have done on Mobius, because I was eating supposed French foods, although I was calling certain things like French fries and French toast and acting like they were French. There are plenty of people in the comments that are like, that's not French, or that's not real French toast. It's like, no shit, I'm just doing a joke. But I did have escargot in that one, and I did not care for it. I don't know how much of that is psychological and how much of that is real, but I lean towards it being real. I don't tend to like seafood either, by the way. There's certain things I don't love, but I still try them every once in a while. For instance, I was in Japan, and seafood is very prevalent there. So they had a breakfast with, what was it? Might have been haddock. No, it was mackerel. So I tried it. I didn't care for it, but I tried it. I have edible Post-it notes. People call it American cheese. Escargot prepared at a real French restaurant is heaven. I'm sure it's better than what I got. I'm sure it is. But, yeah. Can't claim to be a huge fan of escargot. If I was in France and it was at a restaurant, or I was, a guest somewhere, I would try it again, but I definitely can't promise that I would eat it all. And I hate being rude to a chef. I really do. So when I was in Japan, I tried to eat everything on my plate. They definitely, they're different there in the sense that, like, here in America, we have huge portions. It's not abnormal at all to either take something home or not finish everything on your plate. That is not the case in Japan. A lot of restaurants, when I was there, had options so that you could order what you wanted. It would come in real time, essentially. And then if you were hungry, you could keep ordering instead of like all up front. It's kind of impressive, to be honest. I had a great time, though. Got a few amazing manga that will take me ages to translate, probably. I can read Japanese, but it's pretty slow. But I'm excited. I think I got some real winners. What's that face? Oh, it's a grossed out face. I'm afraid to eat escargot. I'm a picky eater. I guess I'm probably a picky eater. I just will try new things. I'll try new things. Did I check out Hokkaido? Of course I did. Yep. Got some pictures that I posted, I think, to Twitter, definitely on Facebook. And I made a bunch of videos that I need to edit. One will probably just be, here's my travel vlog, and I'll put together a bunch of the places that I went to, including Hokkaido. A great art supply store, lots of amazing things for manga artists on the second floor, which is nice. Paper, screen tones, pens, brushes, nibs, quills, reference books, reference mannequins and dolls. Just so many things within what I just described. Lots of variety. Great store. Really fun to go to if you're an artist. Probably interesting even if you're not an artist, but you just like comics, just to look at the different types of tools that they have easily accessible for mangaka. And yeah, I love Hokkaido. That was actually day one when we first landed. That day, my wife and I went there first because, of course, Chrissy's also an artist. Honestly, a much better artist than me. She paints, she does watercolors, she does all sorts of stuff. She's a musician. She sculpts. So yeah, we went there day one, and that was a blast. Got a lot of really cool stuff. So I've made a video like of the places I went to. I made a video how to rent a car and drive in Japan. That'll be a short one, but like I think useful. I made a video about a collection of vintage vending machines, or jihunki as they call it over there, from like the 70s and 80s. It's called Rat Sunrise. Really weird place, but and then of course I made a video for comic tropes. I went to the Osamu Tezuka Museum, where I'll be talking about his work. The Dragon Quest theme. I've heard of that. I've heard of that. I might do that. I might do that. I've eaten roadkill. Wow. Wow. I don't know if I've had roadkill or not, but in New Orleans, I definitely had some strange dishes. You know, they'll cook pretty much anything that moves. You know what was a popular meat in Japan that I hadn't picked up on in my previous visits? Cow tongue. Cow tongue is really popular there. You can find it at like the konbini, the convenience stores. It's a very common and popular meat from the cow. I've had it before. The taste is okay. I do feel like the texture is so rubbery that I don't really like the texture. The taste is pretty good though, so I can sort of understand how it could be popular. I had it over here in America, and I was like, okay, interesting. Not my fave, but interesting. Not a bad taste. Not a bad taste. Japan. Wait, do they cook the stuff while it's still moving in New Orleans? Well, they do for certain seafood, that's for sure. You know, I hear it used to taste. I don't know. Oh, ha, cow tongue. Yeah, cow tongue. When I lived in the DC area, we had some friends that would host an annual event at the very end of summer called Meat Fest. And it would be sort of like the last cookout of the season, where there were definitely like hot dogs and hamburgers, but they also always got whatever sort of rare or exotic meats were at the butcher. So that was not necessarily the first place I had all of these things, but I would have, you know, alligator and cow tongue and cow brain, sheep testicles, things like that. A little less common everyday food. I've eaten deer and squirrel. I've had deer and squirrel. Deer can be really good. But anyway, I'm probably offending some people out there talking about my love of certain meats, so I'll phase that out. What else did I do over there that was interesting? Oh, we went to a ryokan, an inn, way up in the mountains. That was basically the main reason why we rented a car. And that was like about a 4.5 hour drive to get out to where we were going. Once there, it's in the mountains, so it has hot springs out there. And they're the traditional kind, by which I mean they're public baths, and you go in naked. You have like you shower first, then you go into like a locker room to put your towel and your, what would you call it? Like maybe your yukata or whatever you're wearing. And you get like a little modesty towel that's like about, you know, that big that you can just cover your junk up with. And when you get into the hot springs, you just fold it up and lay it on head, because you're not supposed to put anything like above here in the water. Your head is not supposed to touch the water. I never thought I'd do something like that, but it was accepted. That's what the place was. I wanted to experience it. It wasn't the worst. It was actually pretty relaxing once you got in the water and just sort of zoned out. So yeah, that's something I did. I got in a huge bath with a bunch of naked old Japanese men. Is this where Chris impressed all the onlookers? I don't think I had anything to be ashamed about, but then again, I didn't really compare. I intentionally was not looking and going like, good. Oh, darn. Didn't beat that guy. You kind of don't get eye contact. Although, now that I think of it, eye contact is not as big in Japan as I feel it is here in America. I feel like people will talk to you directly, but they won't really always get full, long eye contact. And I could be wrong. I'm just saying that was my experience in my visits there. I feel like they don't necessarily hold eye contact as long as we do. But I don't know for sure. I can only speak from my admittedly limited experience. I've been there 5 times. This was my 5th visit. But my wife and I were already talking about like how we'd love to go back again. But there's also a bunch of new places that we want to visit too. So, yeah. Flexing on onsen goers, exactly. The baths with other men that I go to are usually more active. No, these are very, very chill. Hope the vacation was great. It was so nice to have some time off and some quality time with my wife. That's really important to, I think, any relationship that you're in is sometimes you have to dedicate quality time to each other so that you connect and make sure that you can communicate well and stuff. And Chrissy is the best travel partner out there. She's so patient. She's good at figuring things out when I get sort of stumped. She's really good. She's really good. And her Japanese is also better than mine. I'll admit to that. But I did make a point of using as much as I possibly could, as in every time I went to a store or restaurant, I spoke as much Japanese as I could. I had 1 or 2 conversations in Japan, pretty basic, I will admit, but I was still able to talk about basic things like, what is your name? Where do you work? And ask them as well. How old are you? Little things, and I don't know tons of adjectives, but usually I could find ways to use the ones that I did to affect. I felt like I know just enough that it's frustrating to not know more. And I also know just enough that I feel like I can be a little bit more myself. I can make jokes. I can talk about how Americans are oki, large. Or I can just, like, I was struggling to carry a bunch of bags, and I felt like the concierge, I got a kitty. Hi, kitty. The concierge, I felt like wanted to sort of chuckle, and I said like, funny, isn't it? In Japanese. So it made me feel like I was myself, that I could like just do that kind of stuff. Completely agree. Me and my wife had a small trip to a local city for our anniversary, and it was fantastic. Yeah. Even if Chrissy and I can just say, get away here and there to, I don't know, Portland or something like that for the day. It's nice to connect like that. So makes me feel good about our relationship, that we still like being in each other's presence for things like this. It was a good trip. Thank you all for asking. And obviously it will generate some content in the coming days as I start to edit the various things that I recorded over there. I'm excited and eager to share that with everybody. what else? So next is New York, and that'll be a pretty quick trip for me. Only gone for a couple days. Only going to New York Comic Con on Saturday. I just didn't feel like I could really afford too much more vacation time after taking so much for Japan. I'm essentially taking unpaid days off from my job, so that it's expensive for me to have done both of these in a row. Definitely ate into my funds and stuff. Basically at zero savings, but it'll recover. And it's worth it, I think. I don't have kids, so I don't have that same sort of pressure of trying to save for them. Chrissy has a great job, so she's able to, pay her bills. I'm able to pay mine. We share a lot, but I'm just saying it's pretty good. Like, what are we saving our money for other than retirement someday, which I'm not convinced I'll ever be able to do. We'll see, though. Yeah, Nosferatu Zodd's a pretty nasty customer here. I hope I'm doing it justice. I'm definitely having fun with this ink, though. Definitely having a lot of fun. Did you use the large term in the onsen? I didn't use any words in the onsen. Just to be clear, I did not use any words. How do you say, where is the dong towel? I don't know. There is a name for that little towel, and I don't remember it. It's not something I studied like extensively. I looked it up and knew it for like the day, and then I've let it forgot. Yep, I'm still a car salesman. Oh, the guy that made the short horror films. No, he's been gone for quite a long time, actually. He went in a different direction. I believe he started his own church. I'm not kidding. That was a long time ago now. It was like at least 2 years, maybe more. People that hate being around their spouses are baffling to me. That seems so sad. Don't forget to visit the luggage and fun booths, fudge booths. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, man, Tick Goblin's referring to the fact that ever since we got out of the pandemic, a lot of the big conventions can't sell all of their booths to publishers and artists anymore. They can't fully sell them out. So it leaves you with a lot of tangentially related stuff to comics. Including literally fudge booths and backpack stores. So many blind box type stores. Not blind box, what are they called? More like mystery boxes. So many of those. I don't know how they compete with each other. And I'm fine with a little like related merchandise. Sometimes I like to get, I don't know, a certain action figure maybe, or a hoodie. These are things I do enjoy getting sometimes. So I'm not against related merchandise, but it is a little weird at a certain point when you've got like fudge booths, like having this huge pavilion. Car salesmen are all kind of nutty as a rule, having been one. That might be true. I haven't picked up the new Usagi Yojimbo yet. I haven't been to the comic book store. Like, today is literally my first day back. My first full day. Tattoo booths. Yep. I mean, if it's what it takes to keep the convention running, I get it in that regard, but it's not as interesting to me as artists and publishers. And I do miss the publishers. They typically, when they would have a big booth, that meant that they would be bringing some of their top artists to do signings. They'd have like news or exclusive merchandise. A lot of the conventions I've gone to, there's no more like Marvel or DC booth. There's not even an Image booth or some Dark Horse. And it kind of sucks, you know. I'm like, where's Boom Studios even? I think I've usually still seen IDW have a presence, but it's not fun to not have all of those. I don't have any spooky plans, no, but I'm not working the evening of Halloween, so Chrissy and I will probably get like some decor from Spirit Halloween. And what we usually like to do is go to the dollar store and load up on full-size candy bars for the kids. That usually seems to be a big hit when you can give them the full-size candy bars. They all seem to like that. And the last couple of years, like a lot of kids have been coming to our neighborhood that we live in. So got to stock up. Got to do that still. That'll be fun. Halloween is celebrated in Japan these days, which is interesting. They've picked up on it, but as with many holidays that they've taken from, you know, America, it's not quite the same. It's definitely more of an adult event, Halloween, as in like, you know, a dress-up party or dressing up and going to the bars downtown. As compared to like giving out candy to kids, it's more of like an excuse to dress up and go out and party. I like candy corn. I think it's great. But I don't really eat any candy anymore for the last couple of years because I became diabetic and I want to take it. I take it as seriously as I can. But by the way, did make it a little tricky in Japan sometimes because very carb heavy meals. Lots of rice, potato, things like that. And what I learned while I was there, because I wouldn't have like thought to like ask or talk about it before, apparently diabetes is actually a pretty serious issue in Japan because their traditional meals are so carb heavy that, like, you know, yes, they tend to get better exercise and more health checkups and stuff, but you know, some of it is genetics, and so diabetes is definitely still an issue over there. But I think that their insulin is also like much cheaper than generally what it is here. I definitely found that interesting. So that was tricky. You know, sometimes I was cheating a little bit, but I was trying to make sure that I didn't eat too much whenever possible. Because trust me, their rice is delicious. They take pride in how they make it, but every meal tends to have rice with it quite a bit. The good thing is that means that it tends to fill you up if you have it, which means you're less likely to snack throughout the day. So that's a good thing. They definitely don't eat as many snacks as we do. You know, like the Konbinis have things like chips and candy, nowhere near as much as what we do. They tend to have actual meals that you can pick up. Pretty good meals too. I am back in the US, Steve. Thank you for the super chat. That's super kind of you. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. I also pretty much stick to keto, Chad. Not like 100% strict, but pretty darn close. I know that if it's keto, it's usually pretty safe for me to enjoy. It's pure sugar. I totally agree. Speaking of IDW, anyone know the fate of Walt Simonson's Ragnarok since the chaos at IDW? I believe he's still working on it, to the best of my knowledge. I believe he is. Sour Patch Kids and candy corn, the crack of sweet tooths everywhere. Yes. Candy corn and Peeps are the worst. Yeah, Peeps also, just about pure sugar. What's everybody's favorite candy? I tend to like fruity types of candy over chocolate. I like chocolate, but I'm just saying, like, when I would have candy, I really like things like Mike and Ike's, for instance. That was a one that I really liked. Trying to think. If I was having chocolate here, maybe something like Three Musketeers. I like that sort of nougat. I love black licorice. Boy, do I miss that. I miss that. Chocolate, got it. Yeah, ice cream can count, sure. Black licorice I love, yep. I love Mike and Ike's and Starbursts, yeah. I'm an insulin-dependent diabetic. I sneak and eat candy. I don't really do candy at all anymore. The Nerds gummy clusters, I don't think I know those. Okay. I am pre-diabetic. I got to watch out. Guinness, Reese's, Snickers, and Taco Bell Crunch Wraps are all my Achilles heel. But hopefully we meet again at NYCC. That would be nice. Again, I'm only there Saturday. I don't have a specific agenda. I'll also be there with my buddy. But if you see me, please, anybody, definitely feel free to stop me. I am grateful for your viewership. I am happy to give you whatever time I can and say hello. That is, if I'm at a convention, it is not annoying to stop me. Possibly if I was at like, a urinal stall, that would be not the best. But anything else is pretty much fair game. Even if I'm talking to a pro and I've had people interrupt me, as long as there's a sort of smooth way to do it. Happy to say hello. Yeah. Always happy to say hello. It's really fun to draw fur, in my opinion. If I avoid chocolate, maybe something like hard candy, Jolly Rancher. Oh, yeah. Anything Reese's, High Chews, yep, Starburst. Lots of good candy here in Canada. That's true. I've been up to Canada a bunch of times. You guys have much better chocolate imported from Europe and stuff. I've had black licorice from Finland, and sometimes it's salty. It's interesting. Yeah. Ketchup chips, I've had those when I visited. Butterfingers and Reese's Buttercups are my favorite. Haven't had them in a couple years. Good for you. I am only there Saturday too, but yeah, here is money. Coffee Crisp. I don't know Coffee Crisp, I don't think. Good and Plenty, the fruit and black licorice ones. I also love those. I'll go with Almond Joy. Almond Joy. I don't know about you guys, but like for Halloween when I was a little kid, I would usually take like my sack or bucket of candy and I would sort of prioritize it. I'd put my favorite candy in like a pile in my room and then my second favorite candy. And then I'd have things like, like Almond Joys was like my towards the least favorite, but I'd still have it. So it would be at the back end of my journey. Thank you for the super chat, OJR1331. I'll tell you what candy I hate, Jolly Ranchers. Ripped out a crown and I swallowed it. $800 piece of candy right there. That's a good reason not to like a candy. That sounds painful and expensive. That sounds tough. That sounds tough. I am so sorry. Yuck. Wow. Ripped out a crown. Oh my God. I don't have a crown, but I would be very frustrated to have one ripped out. Wow. So let's see. Steve Sorensen is in the chat and said he's going to New York Comic Con. Is anybody else in the chat room going to New York? I ask because it's a pretty big one. So usually there's a good amount of comics fans that are attending. Curious who else might be going, or if you've gone before and you were like, yeah, I experienced it. That's enough for me, which I honestly could understand because it's a lot. It's big and it's kind of chaotic, and you've got a lot of FOMO when you go to a big convention like that. The fear of missing out. You're like, okay, I'm down here in Artist Alley and there's so many amazing artists, but I wonder what panel or presentation is going on upstairs or if there's like a sale. So that's like tough. Oh, cool, Sean. Do you have a table this year? If so, I'll definitely do everything I can to swing by and say hello. let's see. I wanted to, but have professional obligations. I understand. I understand. Hanging out in Artist Alley. There are so many great artists in Artist Alley this year. There's tons that are in this group called Comic Sketch Art, I believe it's called, that represents them for selling the original art and things like that. Just a murderer's row of talent this year. You know, sort of like the last generation of huge talent like Frank Miller to more modern guys. I'm trying to I'm blanking on the names, but you've got everyone in between. You've got they've got about 30 to 45 amazing people. Kyle Higgins and I don't know. I wonder if Donnie Cates is going to be there this year. I hope so. No table, but you'll just be in the Artist Alley area. That makes sense. If you happen to see me, please shout. I'd love to say hello. I never try to ignore anybody, but there's so much vying for your attention at New York and San Diego and these big conventions. I went to NYCC in 2013. It was so crowded. Yeah, I think I remember 2013. I mean, I've gone to all of them since the beginning. So, except that, like I say, the first year back after the pandemic, I did skip at the last minute. I'm doing well. Chichi, that means dad in Japanese. I don't know if that's intentional, but that's the word for dad. I don't know if Dan Mora is going to be there. I do love his art. That would be really cool if he is. I don't know. I didn't see anything one way or the other. Boy, there's a bunch of people that have had a great year in comics, and I think that this is my loose prediction. I think that the Artist Alley lines for Peach Momoko and Daniel Warren Johnson will still be pretty crazy. Although Peach Momoko's was just absolutely insane last year, and they've taken a lot of precautions to try to organize that. You have to get a ticket beforehand, which they've already done. Like, it's too late to get one now, I believe, in order to get either a signature or a remark. So that's what you have to do with some of these bigger names, depending on the year. And last year they were not at all prepared for how popular Peach was going to be. But I think this year, Peach and her husband and the convention have coordinated, hopefully, a good solution for them. I hope. I have to split. Oh, well, thanks for the super chat, Joshua. Thanks for all you do. You are a master classman for honest enthusiasm and earnest community building. Fave monster character. I think out of the existing sort of monster repertoire out there, I'd probably go with Dracula as the classic monster character that I think you can do a lot with. I will say that I think the one that's been used the least well has lots of different adaptations. Most of them I don't think are great. Is the Werewolf, but I'm biased. I think I've mentioned before I've written a werewolf story for a comic that I would love to do someday if I can ever find the right artist, and our schedules line up. And I have to admit I've never prioritized that tremendously, but I do feel strongly that I've got a good take on a werewolf story. We'll see someday. Thank you, Joshua. Frankenstein's monster from the book. Yeah, I agree that the book is a really interesting character. And the classic Universal monster is also interesting, but isn't really like Frankenstein's monster in the book, because in the book he's actually pretty eloquent, and there's a lot of existential thought over existence and what do you owe to your creator and things like that. That's pretty interesting. it is interesting that Daniel Warren Johnson and Peach are the biggest artists now with heavily manga influenced styles. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you'd call Peach a mangaka. I mean, she's from Japan and did manga before she started doing variant covers and Marvel stories and stuff like that. So I mean, she's more than manga influenced. She's a manga artist. Daniel Warren Johnson, I think, draws from several sources, but definitely has a manga influenced style. I would agree with that. Yes, Junji Ito's adaptation of Frankenstein is adapted straight from the novel, not trying to add some sort of new flourish or anything like that. Just a literal adaptation. And I think his style of body horror suits Frankenstein's monster very well. I thought his adaptation was quite good. What kind of style of artist for this werewolf book? Miller, Simonson, Silvestri? Oh, yeah, because I've got my pick. Hey, Mark Silvestri, I've got a job for you. Probably something where I tend to like a fairly realistic style with some nice hatching and stuff, like clean line art, but also somebody that is willing to block out a lot of shadow, Mignola or something like really brave with their shadows. But I want the precise line work because I think for the werewolf, I'd want it to sort of show, like a fur texture, kind of like I'm doing for Nosferatu Zod. That would be kind of important to me as well. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This is definitely fun to draw him so underlit like this. I'm gonna just black this all out actually, because I didn't really like the texture I gave it. Let's see. Frankenstein. I am back in the US, yes. Is Freddy Krueger just as significant a figure as Dracula in literature? No, I would not say that he's anywhere close to Dracula in terms of overall knowledge and adaptations and everything. But he is a really good modern monster. I mean, the idea of somebody that can kill you in your dreams, that's a really effective, solid idea. I would say that like Freddy Krueger has a much more interesting origin than, say, Jason Voorhees or even Michael Myers, Pinhead, any sort of modern guy like that. I think that, and I'm not saying that all of the Freddy movies are good either. I just think that he has the most interesting idea of a guy that can target you in your dreams. I think the idea of attacking someone where they're vulnerable is always going to be effective. Home invasion is definitely scary, but we all sleep and like that's when we're vulnerable, right? Like, but you don't think you're necessarily vulnerable. Like it's a really solid idea. It's a really solid idea. Kudos, Wes Craven. Kudos. I saw there's a Michael Myers Halloween comic coming out soon. That's interesting. I saw Saw X today, and I know Saw movies don't have the same sort of respect as some of the other things we've been talking about. But you know what? Like, I also agree that they're kind of trashy, but I kind of like them. Some more than others, but I kind of like the Saw movies. I would say that Saw X is one of the best, which is a low bar to cross, I will also admit. But I thought it was pretty good. Has there ever been a Saw comic book adaptation, I wonder? Or more stories in that world in comic book form? I think that we're, in terms of horror, comics are in a really solid place right now. Scott Snyder and James Tynion are like really turning out some really great horror books. I think Dark Ride is a cool one right now. I think Walking Dead helped kick off the modern resurgence in horror. I really do. Yeah, I think that horror is in a really nice place right now in comics. I don't think it's been this strong since the days of the 1950s when when EC Comics had, a murder's row of talent. Didn't I say murder's row earlier today? I binged the Saw movies one October. Yeah. Porcelain Pot Piers. That's me. That's me. Isn't Saw the comic just arcade from the X-Men? Almost. There's something there. There's something there. Tynan's The Closet was great. He's written a lot of good stuff. Ben Percy's Ghost Rider has been a great horror book. Interesting. I didn't read that one. In one of the films, Freddy is thwarted momentarily by a trash can. He went right down in my estimation after that buffoonery. I don't remember the trash can one, but I have seen them all, so I guess I forgot about it. Harrow County. Yeah, I made an episode about that maybe more than a couple Halloweens ago. I do like it. Saw X and the Paw Patrol movie came out at the same time. Saw Patrol. Annis's Ribbon Queen with Jason Burrows has been excellent. Oh, okay. That one flew under my radar. Thanks for the heads up. Silver Coin Anthology. Yeah. A lot of people talk that one up. I actually haven't read it yet. I need to. I've heard a lot of good things. Freddy has been quite a bit of buffoonery under his belt at this point. Yeah, I mean, right around certainly the fourth one on. He's a big jokester. It's been a effort to get him back there. Ribbon Queen and Madness from AWA have been great. Good. Nice. You know what? This still doesn't look good, so I'm going to black that out too. Yeah, that looks better. Boy, I'm going to have a dinner soon. Have a dinner. I will try. What did you all have for dinner? Anything good that I should make or order? I wonder. What should I have? Buffoonery is an excellent word. Yes. I think so, James. I think I will. First, I gotta wrap up my Osamu Tezuka one, and hopefully, I can then get one horror one in before the month ends. I've got an idea, so yeah. I don't know about Full Mignola. I wish I had that that confidence and awareness of how shadows work. Boy, he's so confident in his style. Just gorgeous stuff. Huge fan of Mike Mignola. Huge fan. Hopefully I've made that obvious over the years. Any other good questions in here? Let's see. Oh yeah, Canadian Thanksgiving. That's nice. I'm glad you got to have turkey. That's awesome. I've been making food all day for a queer dinner party tomorrow. Duchess potatoes, fried Brussels sprouts with bacon. That sounds good. And an orange creamsicle cheesecake. Wow. Air fried chicken and Dorito. Well, that air fry tends to be healthier than frying, so that's great. Didn't have to split after all. Oh, well, continue to be welcome. Let's see. Thanksgiving turkey. That must be turkey dinner. Nice. Okay, so you're also Canadian. Got it. An Italian sub from the local grocery store. Good. Sounds yummy. Chicken and collard greens. Ooh, nice sort of southern meal, honestly. If you're in Seattle, you could get one of their god-awful cream cheese hot dogs. No thanks. No thanks. Not for me. Sounds delish. Yeah. Baked beans and rice and Indian curry. They love curry in Japan. I had some good curry over there. I do have to split. All right. See you, Sheldon. Sausage and pasta. Oh, that would be so fun to have pasta. Have I read any pre-code horror books? I heard they were pretty hardcore. Oh, well, yeah. Like all the stuff that EC was doing with Tales from the Crypt and stuff. I've got an episode about my favorite Tales from the Crypt stories. I think that was fun. I mixed it in with mixing horror-themed drinks and had like dry ice making like, plumes of fog around me. I think that's a pretty good episode on comic tropes. Microwave breakfast burrito, teriyaki chicken and rice. Japanese kale is so easy to make at home if you can find the little curry blocks at an import store. Closest Indian restaurant is 20 minutes away, but I haven't eaten since noon, and you guys are getting me hungry. Brief road trip might be in my near future. I think you should do it. Have I read Superman versus Meshi? I have. It's a cute little manga where Superman, every lunch break he gets, he flies literally to Japan and tries new things. It's cute. I'm looking forward to getting caught up on the comics that I missed the last couple of weeks. Cheetos. Now there's a dinner of champs. Katsukuri stuff is badass. I had some really good katsukuri. Yeah, I like Gen V. I've seen all 4 episodes. I think it's pretty darn strong, to be honest. Good characters, well fleshed out, intriguing backstory with it all. It's so over the top, like violent and stuff sometimes that I know that can't be for everyone, and I totally understand, but I dig it the most. Yeah, I recommend it. And Ahsoka was interesting. It was not a perfect show, but I was entertained with almost all of the episodes. No, I was entertained by all of the episodes. It definitely didn't. It had an entertaining final episode of the season that didn't function perfectly, in my opinion, as a season finale. It set up so much that I don't think there was quite enough closure for my tastes, but it was definitely still entertaining, if that makes sense. I like the characters and stuff that they built for that. So I did enjoy Ahsoka. I didn't quite love it, but I liked it. Gen V is great. Amazon can't do fantasy to save their lives, but somehow mastered superheroes. It's all thanks to hiring Eric Kripke, in my opinion. He's a really good showrunner. Just realized you were live. I am. I'm live. If you like soul food, put a little hot sauce with your fried chicken and waffles. I haven't seen the creator. I only just got back, and I think my friend and I might see it Tuesday night after I work. So I think I will be seeing it this week. We'll see. Ahsoka is one of my absolute faves, but I felt the finale was rushed. I felt like it was paced okay, to be honest, in terms of like action and adventure, it just didn't really give me much in terms of closure. But I also started to suspect that might be the case somewhere around the end of episode 6. I was like, there's a lot of villains still alive right now. There's no way I can see the heroes getting through all of them in just 2 episodes. So I'm like, okay, well, you don't bring. I sometimes I can figure out TV shows because I study storytelling, right? I really do. And I go, okay, you don't bring Thrawn in just to kill him off within a 1-season show. You just don't. Like he's too valuable. The potential of a villain like that. So I go, okay, they're not going to beat him. He's gonna maybe get slowed down a little, but he's going to get away. He just is. I go, out of the other villains, I'm like, by episode 6, it was starting to end. I was like, okay, these certain people, I'm not going to spoil it, but like, these people, like, I was like, could die, but there's like another sort of dark Jedi guy that I'm like, he's got a quest, and you wouldn't have introduced that quest, but not like advanced him yet, unless you were planning on following that up in the future. So you can sort of like figure out the pacing sometimes. I don't watch Spy Family, but I do read the manga, and I love it. I'm a huge fan. Made for only $80 million. It looks like it was made for $150. Nice. That was the season 1 finale, and they haven't announced a season 2, but I would strongly imagine it's going to happen. Is it? I didn't watch Rebels, but I think I still got the characters and everything. Oh, and I watched Loki. And I really liked what they were setting up. We've got sort of by the end of it, you're like, okay, Loki still needs to travel to sort of alternate timelines and stuff, but he's got a different reason for doing so. So we've changed the motivation and some of what's going on in the background, which in turn can like change things up, but still keep it a little bit the same too. And I think that like Loki is definitely the show Marvel is putting its most effort into for their TV shows. I think that they want to bring Loki back to the MCU movies. I have to imagine that, again, this is just me predicting what would be the business part of doing Loki season 2 right now, knowing that season 1 did so well. The goal would be to end season 2 having him able to meet Thor, so that if they do a Thor 5, you can bring Tom Hiddleston back, because Thor 4 was okay, not great. I think they're like, okay, but what was really special about like, the Thor movies and stuff? It was having Loki. Like Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston have like a really interesting chemistry. And it's, I think that the popularity of some of the characters in the movies has definitely influenced their take in the comics, which is, by the way, like a long-standing thing for characters from like Superman onwards. Iron Man definitely is more of the Robert Downey Jr. Take. He's is a lot more sort of confident and sarcastic, but I think that Loki has also been tremendously influenced by Tom Hiddleston's take, and I would personally expect Loki to be brought back to the MCU at this point. That would be my prediction for a goal on this show. Not to say his show couldn't continue or anything. I just really feel that that's something Marvel realizes that they could benefit from. Thoughts on the Goon? The Goon is great. Eric Powell, I feel, is underrated as a creator. He's really talented as both a storyteller, like writer, and an artist. Goon is funny. The artwork is both like clean and dark. It's there's a lot to like. Yeah, the actor passed away that played that character. At the same time, you've set a lot of, up that's interesting with that character, and I think that there's enough history and lore in Star Wars of sort of fallen Jedi's adopting masks from Kylo Ren to Darth Vader, the Knights of Ren, that I really think you could take advantage of that and have him start wearing a mask. You get like, an interesting voice actor like Tony Todd to voice him. And I think you could still explore that character. I do think that there's a lot of potential there still. I hope they don't just abandon it. I think that there's a lot of potential there. That's just me. Did you know David Fincher and Tim Miller have been trying to adapt The Goon into a movie? I know that The Goon has been, sort of in development for a movie for a long time. I didn't know that those were the people that were on it right now. I hope that they can get it done someday. Sometimes I think that animation might suit The Goon better, but I don't know. I'm open to any cool take on the characters in that world. I'm gonna need a new brush pen after tonight. This guy's getting a workout with all this dark fur. One thing I thought was pretty cool was in the last couple of episodes of Ahsoka, you had all these people that had force abilities that were fighting. And yet, it wasn't all same of just lightsaber versus lightsaber. A lot of them had different fighting styles, which I really appreciated. Like one character was just sort of using force pushes and martial arts. Ahsoka herself carries 2 lightsabers. Sabine uses primarily her Mandalorian training and guns. It was interesting that they were all sort of force able, but it wasn't just the same stuff that we've seen in previous Star Wars movies. I like that. I also like that the sort of witches, the Dark Sisters, the Night Sisters, whatever they're called, sort of use some new cool abilities. I liked it a lot. But that isn't comics, so I'll grudgingly shut up. They tapped into the samurai movie influences there. Yeah, there was like 1 or 2 moments where I did get like some good samurai vibes. Okay, talking about samurais and comics, there is a YouTube channel out there. I think if I'm remembering right, it's called Ninja in Samurai or Ninja versus Samurai, and they have the most recent TV adaptation of Lone Wolf and Cub. It's live action. I wouldn't necessarily argue that it's the best take on the material, but I will argue that it is a good take on the material. The kid that plays Daigoro especially is quite good. So there's like 8 episodes, I think, and it's for free on YouTube. If you're in North America, I learned that it was region locked, not available in Japan. But if you're not in Japan, again, I believe the channel is Ninja versus Samurai or Samurai and Ninja. And yeah, that's a great manga. Kazuo Koike. If you haven't read it, that's a great starting point for getting into manga. Because it's a samurai story, it tends to tell sort of standalone stories of a wanderer moving across the land, picking up jobs and stuff. You slowly get his backstory, and it's tragic and interesting. But you also, each individual story tends to have a twist with like somebody's motivation, either the villain or the people hiring Ito, the titular character. And the fight scenes are great. Great manga. Really, really good. The TV show was good. The movies are amazing. Yeah, the movies are definitely a little more violent, but that's kind of in keeping with the manga. If you haven't read it, that's definitely one of the early mangas that was translated into English and made widely available. Was Lone Wolf and Cub, and it's good. It's really good. I find the Edo period in general a fascinating period in Japan history. Um, the feudal system and all the sort of warrior class and then the eventual differences between the shogunate and the emperor. Just a really fascinating period. I I told you earlier in this episode that I spent some time at a ryokan, an inn. It's a very remote place, and it overlooks or is right next to a town that has been designated a World History Site by UNESCO. And that's because it's very tiny village. People still live there and everything, and the homes are built in the very late Edo period style with what's called gasho style roofs, thick sort of straw, I believe it is, covering the houses, and they're very triangular. It honestly reminds me a lot of Scandinavian architecture. Beautiful, beautiful village. It was great to walk around and see living history. It was beautiful, beautiful. I just find the Edo period fascinating. Another great comic to literally learn a bunch about the Edo period is Usagi Yojimbo. Yeah, the one with the rabbit samurai. Stan Sakai does a lot of research into the history of Japan, and it's, even though it's got fictional characters and stuff, it definitely talks a lot about the real way of life, the way the government, the samurai ethos, as well as a lot of history with the culture in terms of the food, the mythologies, things like that. So you can actually learn quite a bit of interesting stuff from Usagi Yojimbo while you're just getting an entertaining story. And then you'll sort of know, oh, I think I would want to know more about this. And it can set you down a path. But it's quite a good comic. What are your favorite horror comics of this year? That is a very good question. Dark Ride was good. What else was really good in terms of horror this year? Last House on the Lake wrapped up. That was good. I know Scott Snyder wrote something horror related that it's just not coming to me right now. I'm going to have to sit down and think about that. That's a great question. Maybe I can make, in fact, I needed sort of a short episode to be able to make in between things. Maybe I will make a top 10 horror of this past year. That would be a really fun episode to make, Mike Manhattan, but I have to give it some more thought. That's nice to see that a bunch of you also like Usagi Yojimbo. It's underrated. Oh, yeah, World Tree. World Tree would probably be up there. That's a fascinating one. Good point. Albatross Press. I don't know the status of Albatross Press. Sorry. But last year, did you hear what Eddie Gein done was definitely a top tier horror book. Top tier. Just a really disturbing real life case. That's sometimes that's what it takes to make horror the scariest. Is just telling us a real story about something horrific and horrible. Interesting question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I don't feel like I've come across any announcements that it's defunct, so it's probably just in a wait and see type period, but that's just a guess. Boy, what else was good horror this year? That's such a good question that I don't have an easy answer for, and I feel bad about that. World Tree is like It meets Hackers, and I'm here for it. That's an interesting way of putting it together. Yeah. Baby Card on the. Oh yeah, that's a great Lone Wolf and Cubs story. I was reading The Seasons Have Teeth. Okay. The TV show, yeah, that's been decent. I haven't seen it all. I don't have Shudder. You'd think with how much I love horror, I should. You'd probably be right in some regards that I should have that one, but at a certain point, it gets harder and harder to justify having every damn streaming service. Like it's so frustrating how many there are now. And they all only have like about 1 to 2 great things at a time, but they will each have like those 1 to 2 great things. It's nuts. I don't know if this is coming out well or if I've lost it. I feel like I've lost the plot with it. I don't know. Can't tell anymore. Nika Toys is making some nice Usagi action figures. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. How much does Shudder really have? I don't know. The thing that I'd probably go there first for would be Creep Show. Not Tales from the Crypt. They have Creep Show, but I've seen Creep Show, and that's been entertaining. Where's the Tales from the Crypt reboot? Now that I think that through. Inking fur is fun. I totally agree. I think we've got an interesting take on Zodd coming out here. Nosferatu Zod. There's somewhere out there a commission that Daniel Warren Johnson did for Berserk that features Nosferatu Zod. I don't know. You could probably find it on Twitter, I would guess, but it's pretty badass. I love how you shade blacks. That's super sweet of you. I'm not sure if I do or not. I feel like I'm still learning. But I do enjoy drawing. That's all I can say is I really love drawing. Whether I'm good or not, I don't know. I mean, everybody's always hopefully got room to improve. Yeah. It would be depressing if you didn't have room to improve. I can't imagine feeling like you've completely mastered something and you're just like, well, I'm done. I just can't even imagine it. What other questions do we have? Tubi is a godsend for, yeah, right, because Tubi is free basically. You just have to deal with some ads, but that's not that big a deal. I've been inking with a ballpoint pen. I find the whole process more interesting. When I'm just out and about, I love drawing with a pen. It's really fun. Have I ever heard the band Beast in Black? They really love Berserk. I don't think I have. Sorry. I'm not that good, but that's nice of you to say. That's nice. You guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. There's no mistakes, just happy accidents. Boy, wouldn't we all benefit from like an ongoing show teaching you how to do art, but like specifically illustrating like comics and stuff? Like, wouldn't that be an interesting show? Not just live streaming, sketching, like literally teaching you what to do. I think that would like be very popular on like, PBS or YouTube or Twitch. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. Everything's monetized. Everything is just, for sale with that. But I feel like that would be an interesting ongoing type of show. How to illustrate with an eye to making sequential art. So sometimes it would really just be teaching you anatomy. Sometimes it might be teaching you shading. Maybe they even do special episodes about lettering and coloring and things like that. I feel like that would be a really interesting show. I'd pay money for that. My thinking is like, that you don't necessarily have to, that it could be like ad supported or subscription supported. Yeah, there are artists that will do like one-offs. I guess I'm talking about kind of like what Bob Ross did, an ongoing show that reinforces what you need to know regularly. I don't feel there's something quite like Bob Ross these days. And maybe that's because YouTube, you can find such specialized things. But I feel like with an ongoing type show, you get the advantage of feeling like you kind of have some sort of a parasocial relationship with the artist. And it can also just be like calming to listen to. It can just sort of be almost ASMR. Before there was ASMR, like that, there was Bob Ross. I guess I this is only just occurring to me, so I don't know how to spell out exactly what's in my head, aside from just a lesson or live drawing. But I'm thinking of it as like an educational type of show that's ongoing, but specifically for comics. I think that there'd be tons of material that you could constantly reinforce, even if you were doing some of the same lessons, but like, it's a new drawing and trying to have the people draw along with you the same thing. Like that's a piece of it that I'm talking about, is going like, okay, now you try to do like what I'm doing. We're going to block this out. The goal is to get to this. I don't know. I got to give that some thought. Finch's show has been great instruction. Okay. That's good to know. Let's see. I drew on Finch's show a couple weeks ago. It was nerve-wracking drawing right next to him. Oh, I bet a lot of artists feel that way, though. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're a pro with X number of years and this success and that success. As soon as we compare ourselves to one another, and maybe I shouldn't really put myself in that group by saying each other, but my point is, when we compare ourselves, that's when it gets nerve-wracking. And I don't think it should. I think that's something you got to get yourself past if you've been like sort of invited into that sort of environment. Like, don't have the imposter syndrome. Like, to go like, okay, I'm here for a reason. I'll do what I can. And then it's up to the world to see if I've been helpful or not, or if I got it right. But between you and me, Sean, I prefer your sort of clean, open, or more open style to Finch's like heavily rendered, like sort of hatching and stuff like that. And I'm not saying anything bad about David Finch there. I hope that's clear. I'm just saying what I prefer. We're all allowed to have preferences without disliking somebody or saying anything bad about somebody. I would hope that David Finch doesn't take offense to that. Yeah, I've seen some of Stan Lee's stuff. I wouldn't call it quite what I've got in my head, but yeah. Some of the old Qbert School VHS tutorials are on YouTube. That's nice. That's nice to know. Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is compare our art to our own artwork and see if like there are noticeable improvements or not. Like what else, what else can we do? And it's never going to match exactly what's in our head, in my opinion. This isn't coming out anywhere close to what was in my head, but I'm still right now, I'm kind of okay with it. But I'll tell you this, in a week or something, I probably won't be. But I'm having fun experimenting with ways to like render the fur and the light. I'm having fun with it. And if you can have fun drawing, you're ahead of most people in terms of what they do for either work or hobby. In my opinion. And you can take my opinion to the bank. One thing I didn't do during my visit to Japan that I would have really loved to. I would have loved to have seen a pro wrestling match, but it wasn't really something Chrissy was too excited about. And it is a trip for both of us, not just like for me to do my favorite things. And good luck to you. So I didn't do that, but that would be something I think I'd really enjoy seeing. Or alternately, a sumo wrestling match. Fortunately, during one of our visits, we did go to a specific sumo wrestling school that like had its windows up for like about an hour in the morning. They would do a lot of training, but for like 1 hour, and it was really early in the morning. But if you went there and you stood in front of the window, you could watch the sumo wrestlers actually wrestle as they were in training and stuff. We did that. It was pretty amazing. And then afterwards, one of them came out and would take pictures with us. And we each got a picture with one of the sumo wrestlers. Really, really amazing. Very impressive athleticism. Their sense of balance is just incredible. Let's see what we got for questions so far. What would be a really cool crossover? The Goon, Spawn, and Hellboy. I think the Goon and Hellboy have crossed over, if I'm remembering right. But yeah, Spawn makes sense too, sure. It wasn't a Bob Ross type thing, but Jim Mahfood and his gang did live inking streams with some big names that had good tips on it. That's nice, yeah. Well, love Jim. I'm really glad I met Jim. He's a great guy. Really, really kind and really talented. And he definitely does his own thing, which I really admire. I really do. Agents of Chaos. Have not seen that one. But I will be a weak guy for getting anything that Bill Sienkiewicz worked on. That's for sure. Does Chrissy know or care about any of Japan's various women's pro wrestling offerings? I don't think she'd care too much, but I could ask. Japanese pro wrestling can get batshit crazy. It definitely can. In one of your videos, you had some very sage advice I take with me every time I draw or write. It was along the lines of, if you like it, someone else out there will like it too. I believe that. I believe that. I think that if you I think it's hard to guess at trends or guess at what people like. I think that sometimes you can be the first one to jump on a trend that's already started and you might benefit some, but I don't think it's a good way of like doing everything you've got. But if you can be passionate about something, I feel like there's a great chance that somebody else out there is going to be passionate about it too, or at least respond to your passion. Your drawing combines two challenges, fur and uplighting. The failure rate for that tall order is high. Kudos to your no fear attitude. That's nice of you. Thank you. That's nice of you. I just got here. Did Chris have a good trip? I definitely had a great trip. Great trip. Really, really good. I think I got to do a bunch of new things this time, you know? Driving a car, sitting in an onsen, walking, hiking up Mount Inari through the 100 torii gates, going to the Osamu Tezuka Museum. Just all sorts of really cool different things, trying different foods. It was a really good trip. It was great. It's funny, you know, I was there long enough, like 2.5 weeks, that I'm definitely glad to be back. And I miss it too, because I like it so much. So I'm conflicted. It's nice to be back in your own home. Be back with my pets, my cats and stuff. That's super nice. You long for home at a certain point, but I just really like it in Japan, and I can't always put my finger on the specific, like any one specific thing of why I like it. It really is a combination of factors, but I always have a good visit. I really do. I never am like, this one was a little bit of a waste of time. So, yeah, I think next, you know, we're more likely to do something new, visit a new country. I mean, specifically, I think what I'd like to do next is probably combine like France and Germany. Maybe if I'm lucky, I could time it so that I could go to a day of the Angoulême comic festival in France. I definitely think that would be interesting to me anyway. And Chrissy's into art enough that I think she'd find that interesting and new. So a few days there, and then like a few days. I haven't been to Germany, so I think Germany would be kind of interesting to explore. And I know I'd like the food there. France is a little trickier just because I'm lactose intolerant and diabetic, so that does sort of wipe out a bunch of things that I could like really chow down on. I might like, you know, take a bite or two to experience, but it makes French cuisine a little trickier. Whereas like German, you know, yeah, maybe I'm not having like the pretzels and schnitzels and stuff, but I could certainly have a lot of their sausage and things like that. So we'll see. That's an idea. Thanks, man. Or woman. Geez, I just assumed. Tezuka's Buddha was the first manga I ever read. I was forever changed by it. I don't blame you. I mean, I loved getting to see some of those original pages at the museum. Just loved it. What a treat. Yeah. Boy, that's a good manga to have read the first time. It's really an impressive story. It is interesting how Osamu Tezuka, you know, like his art became refined and more confident and clean and stuff, but at the same time, he always had that cartoony style, even when in like the late 60s and stuff, he started to get much more interested in drawing gekiga, which is, you know, mangas with adult themes, manga aimed at an adult audience. You know, he never adjusted his style to say be more realistic or anything like that, but he did change his writing style. to work on more mature themes. I always found that interesting. Wow. This is one of those rare instances where I think I'll actually finish a drawing on a live stream. I mean, I'm so close. I went a little longer than I was expecting to, but I didn't think that I would get so close and be able to ink this to a place where I felt like it looked more or less complete. But I think I can. So yeah, I'm going to just hang out here until I sort of finish up this last bit on this leg, and then call it a night. I don't remember if I asked, but have you ever been to the Ishinomori Shotaro Museum? No, I don't know that one. Adolf. Wow, that's an interesting one too. Yeah, a couple different Adolfs in that story. Most people are familiar with him for at least I keep thinking Adam, but over here we tend to know it better as Astro Boy. If not that, maybe Blackjack. He's got some well-known manga like that, but not everybody knows Buddha and Phoenix and Adolf. Osamu Tezuka was an innovator. He did not always create everything, but he popularized a lot of things such that it influenced other people. Like certainly, shoujo manga aimed at like girls. He really made a huge impact with Ribbon. I forget how to pronounce it. There's a princess manga that he made. It's got a long, deep story, and that he worked on remastering at a certain point as well. There had been other manga aimed at, young girls before that, but his was by far the most popular, and he sort of like created essentially tropes and rules and things that worked within storytelling for stuff like that. So he was an innovator. He was an innovator in animation, honestly, just in ways of like making it cheaper so that they could tell more stories. Not always like the best looking, but like certainly the most affordable ways of producing some of this stuff. Just a really amazing person that loved working. Can you imagine like loving your work so much that your final words were like to please let him keep working? Like he begged his nurse to let him have his art board so that he could keep drawing. He's like, I've got so much work to do. That's documented. That's a real thing. And yeah, just kind of amazing that he loved what he did that much. We should all be so lucky in that regard. I don't think he ever would have slowed down, even if he'd like reached a ripe old age. Yeah, Astro Boy's on Tubi. That's nice to hear, actually. I did not know that. Don't forget the top of the tail. Yeah, I've sort of got it tucked away under here, but yeah. And when I was at the museum, another interesting thing I found out was just that Tezuka had always drawn since he was a little kid. There's comics that he was making at like ages 8 and 14. He broke into the industry very young while he was still studying and going to school, because he became a licensed doctor. If you don't remember, he also was drafted in and went to war during World War II. not that he was fighting on the front lines, but he was drafted into the army and like I think served at like a plant or something, with like producing stuff. And maybe you've heard of the famous samurai and swords maker Hattori Hanzo. Tezuka is a direct descendant of Hattori Hanzo. So he's got all these things that, like, even if he hadn't become a mangaka, he probably would have been known for his being a doctor and being the descendant of a famous samurai and stuff. Just a fascinating life. He was destined for greatness, you could argue. I really think you could. But instead, he really carved out his own path and became known as the godfather of manga. Just what an amazing individual. Provided a viable blueprint for how manga could be produced better, and how to market it and how to do animation. Just an incredible individual. I think that American comics kind of got to a lot of places through trial and error, whereas like Tezuka was trying these things himself and trying so many things. He could have just rested on the success of something like Astro Boy, but he didn't. He was always working on a ton of different comics at the same time. A really, really unique person. So you can see I'm obviously a little passionate about him, and I think that that'll help hopefully make for a good episode. I think that this is basically done. If I had more time and this was like intended for something finished, what I would have done is probably not drawn all of his legs here. I would have like drawn him standing within like plumes of flames as though he's stomping through an army and causing destruction. But that's like in my head, that's where this like sort of light is coming from, is like, like a fire right underneath. I can just sort of like rough it out in pencil and like, something like that, with flames licking up everywhere and causing plumes of really dark smoke eventually like up here or something to like help create something almost circular. Like I'd have like the light would probably like make, this all dark, and there might be like, bodies or trees or something like that. But yeah, that's, if I had more time, like that's what this would be. But I knew that I didn't have that time. So I was just drawing Zodd just to play with shadow and fur. That was my only goal today, was to draw something kind of horror related and have fun with it. I appreciate you all joining me, just sort of explaining, if I was doing this as more of a pinup or a page, how I might have approached that a little bit differently. I'm going to just darken some of this lower section of the leg as well. I feel like the lighting isn't quite consistent enough within that, if that makes sense. Scale, marching through armies, like towering over. Yeah, Nosferatu Zod is big. Like a human would probably be up to about here. If I was blocking out, like say, if I was blocking out Guts standing against him, I don't want to put him like right in the center as a crotch or something, but he probably would have been about this big. There's like the head, there's the body, the torso, the legs, something along that sort of scale. Yeah, so like there would be bodies strewn about here if I had drawn more. Zodd is a big guy. Not as big as Godzilla or something like that, but bigger than the Hulk. I don't know, maybe we'll call that 25 feet high, something 30. Just guessing. So, yeah, that's kind of you. Thank you. You like the shading? I appreciate that. I had fun drawing. I had fun chatting with all of you. Let's see. Skull Knight's small fight with Zodd was cool. Skull Knight's awesome. I'm a big fan of Berserk. Here's an example. When I was in Japan, one day I got up really early in the morning and got in line for a store that was selling on the 30th. It was the first day that a new Guts action figure was being released, an SH Figuarts figure. So I got in line before it opened and, you know, prepared what I would need to say in case I needed to say, like, you know, like, where is the Guts figure, or how much is this, you know, like things like that. But and I did use some of that, but it was fun. Like I was like about number 15 back there. When you go to certain Japanese action figure stores that are brand new, they usually will have a placard up front with release dates for the various things that are coming out. And like on that day, the 30th, there was a new Guts figure. There was a couple new Transformers. There was a couple new Godzilla figures, as well as various other things like Gundam sets and stuff. And so like this was a big release day. And I got in line and I was able to get the Guts figure that I wanted. So I feel good about that. Anyway, hopefully it's been some interesting stuff to talk about. Looking at this now, I'd say it's like 80% of like what I had in mind. Probably could have been more consistent with the shading in a few areas. But that's okay. You know, I'm learning. And I'm willing to accept that. If this was for sale or something, I probably would have planned certain elements out a little bit more so that I had a better chance of getting everything right, and B, you know, be willing to use whiteout or Photoshop if I needed to make it work better. This was more of, I did a quick sketch and a fairly quick ink job to learn, and I'm satisfied with that. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. I'm going to take off now, have some dinner, and I will see you on this channel very soon for the live stream on Monday. And this is also the channel where I'll be posting some of those vlogs that I made in Japan. You know, everything from how to drive to lining up at that store to get stuff, seeing Super Mario World, playing with otters at a cafe, all sorts of interesting stuff. So there'll be a lot of content coming to this channel very soon. Until then, keep reading comics. See you real soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.